He is?
Thank you. Okay.
So everybody, he loves it when you do that.
Okay, cut.
We're having fun in recovery, right? Okay, so one of the things I was talking about that, and this ties into the stuff Giuseppe's talking about, is an identity crisis. Being brand new clean is a bit of an identity crisis. Being a family with an addict in recovery in the beginning is a bit of an identity crisis for a family, because I've seen a lot of people, friends will go, "Oh, where's your son?" "Oh, he's in school in Connecticut." Like that. And because there's so much the real stigma of addiction, the shame, the guilt, the pain, the anger, the insanity. And for people in recovery, it's just, I remember when we were brand new clean, we were going to rent an apartment. And we meet the landlord, we look at our house, we look at the house. "Oh, we're in recovery." We didn't get the place. You know what I mean? Because when you say the word addict, they have an idea that's going to go with that, right? It doesn't mean you were a person who had some problems or struggles. There's no understanding at all how you got to that spot in the first place. I mean, for some people, maybe you're born that way, genetic predisposition. First time I drank, I was like, I drank at 26, like that, like a duck in the water, right? I could drink more than everybody else, like that, a genetic predisposition. But more than half the time, that's not the case, that low self-esteem and anxiety and shitty feelings and, can move a person to that, just trying to have fun and be a part of can move you to that, And so when we used to explore all the reasons that would get a person into addiction, we would come up with the answers of what's going to help somebody get out of addiction, to be a part of, to get some values, back to that common sense, to, be a part of in a way that not only are you being helped, but you're helping somebody else, I kind of look at it like a 60-40 deal, and the guy's coming in, I'm not saying in the interview, "Oh yeah, you're going to help save people's lives while you're here." What? Because I'm such a shitty example? Like that. It has to be something positive. But it happens really fast, right? So, what gets you moving to that? What's a healthy family look like? Well, what's a regular, you have the TV version of it, which isn't reality. You have versions of it where maybe there are some people that don't have problems. I haven't met anybody yet, because some people think, "Oh, if you have lots of money, you don't have problems." Really? I couldn't throw enough money at this to stop it, like there was no answer, So it's not in overanalyzing the problem, and in some ways, some of it isn't even really that important. What you want to do about it becomes important. Like for the families to, maybe leave the past alone a little while when you get together. So when I'd get with my daughter, I wouldn't be bringing stuff up. "Hey, 6 weeks ago you said," or 5 months ago you did that. I put the score sheet away for a little while, and just live in the moment. Like, let's just enjoy today. Let's just enjoy each other's company. Let's get the feelings going again. What does a healthy family look like? People that just stick together. To feel love, to feel some satisfaction, to be able to eat and enjoy a meal, to plot and plan something interesting. Like our family, we got all our kids together and we went down to Mexico, rented a house on the beach, bought some food, cooked some food, watched every sunrise, every sunset, drank too much coffee, laughed our asses off. Didn't do anything spectacular, you know what I mean? Just a few days go by. Just enjoyed each other's company. We're not in any of that pressure and insanity, and in the sense, if I look at it from a perspective of recovery, there's respect, there's, no criticism, there's compliments, it's simple stuff, eh? And, you sit down, you eat together, and I had these moments while we were doing it. It's just like, this is how it should be. This is how it should be. And when you're in addiction, I mean, you go out for dinner and it turns into it's like somebody threw a grenade in the restaurant. You know what I mean? You don't even want to do it. This is going to go bad. I mean, you're thinking that before you go, So in recovery, it was the simplicity in the moment, the day by day, and things like, gratitude. And I'm looking at my daughter, and she looks beautiful, and she looks happy, and we're just like having coffee, sitting on the veranda watching the sunset. And then of course Jared and Jess wheel up, and Pete, and they all rented ATVs, and we got this really nice house, and they're spinning donuts in the front yard, and the ramp. It's like the crazy cowboys just came into town. They're completely nuts, and they're just so happy. That's the only part I said. I didn't care if they made a mess. They just looked happy. They looked happy. They were in the moment. I think that was Jessica's wedding. Just before she got married, as a dad, I got to walk two of my daughters down the aisle, and completely different both times, lots of feelings, really emotional. I remember walking down the aisle with Sarah Jane, and I'm holding her hand, and just for a sec, it's like she's 4. I have these feelings. My heart's pounding. Just incredible. That's recovery, right? And it has to be definable, And I remember just before Jared and Jess got married, we're up in the hotel room, we're about to go down to do the wedding, and I look at her and I can tell she's about to go nuts. And I get to be the bride whisperer. And I just start talking to her about, our lives and gratitude and love and what our family is, and same thing, we're walking down, and I just feel that love. So, what's a healthy family? We're all a little bit nuts. We're strange, but I tell you, that love and what we do with recovery defines us. We have an identity in recovery, and it was hard for our kids at first, because a couple of them, they had to go to meetings, and we've been in recovery for a long time. They didn't have their own sense of themselves because they're our kids, and eventually they got that, right? But I could tell you about 10,000 memories like that have feelings like that. I remember making amends to my daughter when she was 12, New Year's Eve, and I made amends, and she gave me a hug, and I had so much feelings. I felt like my heart was going to bust out of my chest. It was just a conversation about, me taking responsibility. And I didn't do it when she was 2 when I got clean. I did it when she was 12, but I lived that amends for those 12 years. And just looked me in the eye and said, I love you. That's it. Simplicity, right? So if it's about recovery, it seems to be there's simplicity. If it's about family, there's simplicity in our family. Like, I'm cooking dinner for Louise yesterday, and next thing you know, our kids burst through the door and start eating all the food, and like sitting at the table, and somebody comes for a visit, and it's just like, there's this really positive energy. The grandkid's there, and he's rampaging around, and there's a dog and life, and I'm just like, I feel so satisfied at that moment, right? And so if I talk about family, I tell people stuff like that it's this satisfaction. It's this, there's no boundaries and walls and insanity between us and our kids. You know what I mean? We don't let it build up. So being in recovery, the same thing. If I'm active and I'm going to meetings and I'm doing these basics and I'm living this way, I'm not the one putting those walls between me and other people. I get to live with this freedom, right? Because, I have to have my own personal recovery to make it work. So my identity in recovery, my daughter's identity in recovery, and as a family, like one time we were sitting at a meeting, and between me, Lou, Sarah, and Jess, we had a couple 100 years of clean time, like started with the coffee and the conversation, started with an investment in the community. When my daughter needed help, we couldn't help her. It was the youngsters in this community that went and reached out to her, and plus Lou told her there's a lot of cute young guys in the program. that helped too, right? Yeah, little things like that. But it was like they rallied around her, and it was pizza and splatter movies at Pete's place with a bunch of youngsters and having fun and enjoying recovery. And I remember when I was a new guy, I was in detox. I had just been on this massive run. I didn't even know how I got there. I got loaded in southern Alberta, and I came to in a psych ward and hospital in Prince George. I don't know what happened in between. Next thing you know, I'm getting interviewed by this detox worker, because I guess Dave's going to treatment, and and she says, well, when's the last time you had fun? Seems like an odd question when you're like, I'm shaking, I'm sick, I'm really rough shape. When's the last time you had fun? And I'm really quick with my answers. I'm a fast talker, and I couldn't remember. Like I couldn't come up with, I had nothing. And I felt broken. I just felt so broken. You know, like, because I enjoyed life. Like, I wasn't a monster. I played hockey. I want to be a professional hockey player. You know what I mean? Like, I put a lot into that. I had dreams, you know, I had love in my life. I had a good family, you know, and there I am in detox, shredded out of my mind by 22 years old, thinking, you know what, I'll just do everybody a favor and kill myself, finish the job. And there I am in a detox. Here's an opportunity. When's the last time you had fun? And I couldn't answer. Tell you what, it was a couple weeks later in detox after I got out of the psych ward, because as soon as I started detox, I went crazy. And so it was the rubber room and the hockey helmet and the video camera. My name's Andy. It's weird. It's weird. Like I use for every and all occasion. And there I am in detox, and I'm trying to have a little bit of fun, and I'm learning how to play, what was that game? Crib. And you have to count. Can't do that. My mental capacities are at an all-time low. But I'm feeling better every day. And you know what? They're moving me into treatment. They kept me in detox for 3 weeks, almost 4 weeks. You know, I'm a young guy. They would really grab onto you. Like if you wanted the opportunity, it's like the doors opened and the forces rallied, and they made every opportunity to help you go through the process. And they're checking me into treatment, and you know, like I'm coming alive a little bit every day. Like I'm feeling a little bit better. You know, like being able to sleep, being able to go to the bathroom. You know, like I didn't realize how reduced I'd gotten. And you know, there was a cook in that place. There's always a cook. And the cook would come by at night and, hey, you want to go to a meeting? I'm not getting nothing out of treatment. Like I'm really not, you know. They're trying to do therapy on me. And so the cook takes me to meetings. And I remember I asked him why. And he goes, keeps me clean. And he says, you're feeling a little bit better? And I'm like, yeah, I am. You know, I'm starting to hear a little bit in the meetings. You know, I'm starting to feel a little bit when I'm around other people, you know. So my beginning went from that to being the guy who could be there for his daughters, being the guy who could, you know, practice recovery. And you know, my daughter said to me one time, both of them have actually said it to me, you know, the most important thing you ever did for me was do recovery. You know, it was on my cake, you know, but it's a nice thing to say. Just like, you know, so I'm up at the podium and I'm trying to share, you know, I can talk, and I look over and there's my daughters and they're looking at me, and they're just like, they're looking at me. And I'm like, because I'm feeling so much love that I felt like I swallowed an apple to get those feelings down, you know. But like you can get well, that's the message, you know, that you can get well as a person in recovery, that you can get well as a family, you know, in spite of our, you know, idiosyncrasies and the way we do things. We like to have fun, we like to enjoy it. You know, like we have an intact family, and I look at our grandkids, and our grandkids are just loved, right? You know, and it's amazing stuff. Like, and for me, the part I think is important is to share that, you know, that as a family, if you've lost that, you can get it back, you know, that there's a future in this whole recovery thing, right? It's like really positive, right? That you don't have to live in that insanity, and you don't have to do recovery for them. Like if you know, you can't, it won't work, you know, but you can be a participant in the process, you know, so.
Well, we've always told people if you're a parent with a kid in recovery, don't beat yourself up that you've made some mistakes, because there isn't any easy answers. This might work, and that might work, and this might work, and this might not work. So, you come in and it's like, oh, my kid's a mess, and you feel responsible for that you should have done something because since the moment they were born, you've been responsible. So if you haven't found the answer, don't be beating yourself up about it because there is no easy answer to it. Different things work with different people. One thing that you need to know about recovery is you don't have to do it alone. And a lot of times families end up isolated because, oh, my kid's in Harvard and he's in, and my kid's like living in Skid Row. You just don't want to talk about it anymore. So you start shutting down pieces of your life and stop relating. And that becomes isolation, which is a key factor in addiction. You become isolated and stop talking about things. And even the healthiest of families, it will take you apart. And being able to remember to still talk and enjoy your other kids that you still have in your life, they can be a lifesaver. But don't let it take your relationship apart in the rest of your family. And that was a tough call for us to just say to our kids, like, look, this is going to take precedence over you. And it's hard to do because, the baby, the nursing, but you have to think about they're going to come and go in our lives and we still want to be together. We want to stay together. And so keeping that intact and seeing where they're going to fit. And sometimes they just don't fit. And sometimes you get down to a relationship that really isn't much. There's so many, when my son was using, there were so many pieces in our lives that we couldn't talk about. Because to go there would be anger and recrimination or control or fear. Well, we'll just get you an apartment and then you can go live there and then they always screw it up, And then you're mad because you wasted all that money and, I'll give you $20, but what did you do with it? Finally I learned, you just give them the money, I don't care what you do with it. That's just taking the control out of it is a way to recover. But David, tell us about fun and recovery because I think a lot of people wonder, a lot of wives wonder, a lot of partners wonder, and a lot of parents wonder, really, am I paying for my kids to have this much fun? And, when you stop being afraid, you start getting mad at them now. Yeah, and you're happy. Oh, and you went to the pool today. Well, congratulations. I'm so happy for you. So talk about fun and recovery.